So, good afternoon, and here we are again today. We're talking to some journalists. So, we're on, what's my TV show called again? Make Some Noise with Doug de Jong. So, please check it out. Please share it, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. I'm getting used to pointing to the right way. So, if you're on YouTube, please have a look. So, we've got some journalists here today who write for various different things, but it's all about the music. It's all about the music. So, first of all, we're going to get Mella. Do you want to come and introduce yourself here, Mella? And I'll just zoom in here. There we go. Do you want to tell
Hi.
us what you do, Mella?
Yeah, look, for about maybe 12 years now, I've been a freelance music journalist for my own channel, which is Live to You TV on YouTube, going backstage with independent artists and promoting the music that they do. I always felt that there was a sort of a gap where independent artists just didn't get the same exposure to media opportunities that some of the commercial artists did, and felt there was some great acts out there and wanted to share it and, help them along the line in terms of getting skilled up in dealing with the media as well. And look, we have fun with it. We're really quirky.
Okay.
We don't ask normal questions. We do off the wall stuff.
Oh, very good. And I'll just introduce our next speaker as well. So there we are, Glenn. You want to say hello, Glenn? How you going? And maybe where you're from and what you do?
Yeah, sure. G'day, I'm Glenn Moffat. I'm a musician that's also a writer. Mainly my writing gig is for a website called audioculture.co.nz, which is like a collection. It's the noisy library of New Zealand music, where we've basically found that we're not very good at collecting our stories, and a lot of the artists from the past were passing away before their stories were getting collected. So it was a big sort of charge on to get all the stories collected. So I write for them and still do a little bit of music, but not so much now.
Oh, all right. Cool. So there we go. We've got everyone on now. So journalism in its... I'm going to keep looking at the camera here. So journalism, and I just propped you guys just before we went live. So do you think it's maybe, Mella, a dying art, like the actual act of journaling for a muso?
I think paper media has been a dying art for a long time, and then it's been recognised.
Yep.
But the move into the digital world doesn't impact us at this point. I mean, you're proving through this show that there's a great opportunity to live stream content. So that's the area that I'm going to move more into, because I've been doing video interviews pretty much live and uncut as they are. So I'm used to doing that. I've just got to start being more motivated, I guess, to organise to do some live on my show. But no, I think it's absolutely, it should be thriving out there just in terms of this type of medium.
Yep. And Glenn, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's not. I mean, everybody, especially now that with the internet and all these, as Mella said, all these sorts of mediums, anybody can write anything on the net now about anything they want to. So I think that's great for exposing more and more music to the mainstream. But I suppose it's just as hard to find the thing that you're interested in, because there's so much of it now that's available. Whereas we used to just get what the record companies, like the RCAs and the CBSs and the Universals and Sonys would feed us. But now, if you look for it, you can just about find anything that you're interested in. So I think everybody's a journalist, or has the capability to be a journalist now. They might not spell very well, but
they're not always good at it, though.
No, that's right, not good at it, but everyone's got the chance to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point there. So I guess the reason why I asked that question is, maybe if I use an example of sheet music and the piano, my grandmother's generation, everyone could read sheet music, and like I remember sitting in a lounge room, she'd put a sheet out, say, hey, what song do you want to hear? And she would like flick through the thing. So the skills that she would actually require would be reading and, being able to play with both hands. But these days, being a music teacher, seeing someone who can sit down and actually read with both hands is actually getting fewer and fewer far between.
Yeah,
so I mean, like only maybe 2 or 3 kids in the whole school, which is so. My point is, why I'm saying that is, do musos really read? And maybe the length of a nice review, is that on its way out?
I wouldn't always say musos are the audience that I want to target anyway.
Good point.
So for me, who I'm trying to target is people that haven't heard the artist before. First of all, I'll just clarify, I don't actually consider myself a journalist. I just consider myself as somebody who really loves live music, and I'm passionate about supporting it. So I just started doing this freelance journalist stuff as a bit of fun.
Yep.
So I probably have never put myself into that professional strain. But yeah, look, I don't know. I lost my train of thought with all that bullshit that I was saying. Oh, no, that's right. I know what I was going to say. One of the things that I'm going to find difficult, and I found this difficult when I'm interviewing people, and I'm sure you can relate to me here, Doug, is sometimes you're only as good a journalist as the person that you're interviewing. So if you start talking to somebody who's really flat, it's hard to pull that up. It's hard to get that energy into
I agree. You can't fake chemistry, right?
No, you can't. And it's like some musicians as songwriters and some musicians are cover artists. Some have really good stage presence and some don't. Like some are more recording artists that don't like that stage thing. I feel that's where my barriers are moving into this more digital age, is that if we're going live and somebody's really flat or gets, the whole deer in the headlights scenario, that's hard to fix.
Right. And what do you think about that, Glenn? Was I was saying about it's a dying art,
Yeah, a point to what you said about the musicians reading. When I many years ago, I used to write for a magazine called New Zealand Musician, and I made the mistake.
Oh, wow.
So it's basically a musician magazine. So the musicians used to get it and read about reviews of guitars and reviews of gear that they could purchase and that sort of thing. And I was doing some album reviews for them, and the audiences are very small. And so it's hard to give an honest review, because when I did, there's two occasions I can think of where I gave an honest review about the album maybe not hitting its mark in a couple of places, and next minute you get the artists themselves hate mail from a fellow muso saying, "Oh, you shouldn't be saying that about us. What about your last album? It was blah blah blah." It's like, well, hang on a minute, mate. That's not. I'm giving an honest review here. It's not a sort of he said this, so he said that. And, yeah,
that's a really fine line to tread, isn't it, for journalists to, where do you say the truth and where does the truth become quite confronting for the person that you're reporting on? So how do you balance that?
Yeah, and I think, getting a critique that comes down to this age-old argument, subjective versus objective. So subjective meaning it's only good if you've been exposed to it, but objective, what is it on the outside? So I don't know if that just made sense, but I hope it does.
That was deep, Doug. Really deep.
Yeah. So, for example, I had an album review. I made a record, and actually, Glenn, where's Glenn? There we go. I'm getting used to pointing the right way. You have to write me an album review.
Yeah, but, I must get around to doing that. Yeah.
Yes.
I would like you to do one when my EP's out as well, because I'd love the honest review. Have you ever seen the online system where you can actually submit to get a whole bunch of reviews from random people, and you pay $50 or something for it?
No,
I've seen that with documentary films.
Yeah,
they do that.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, you can do it as a musician as well, and I have done it for artists that I've represented in the past. It's really interesting to get just a really random cross section of people give you a review. But,
so just explaining those 2 points about being objective. If you're a guitar player, you'll probably like my record, or maybe not, Yeah, but if you're into the concept of the record, maybe you'll like it, maybe not. You know what I mean? So there's just different angles. Objectively, it is what it is, but subjectively, are you exposed to the artist for a long time? So I guess, what about writing about an artist's second record? So just, this is the second time you've written about an artist, so you can't talk about all their first accolades. How do you guys tackle that to keep it exciting and engaging?
I'll go first because mine's really quick. I don't do that stuff. My interviews are very positive stuff. I'm a bit of a sponge, so I like to stay away from negativity as much as I can. So I like to do positive stuff. So when we do the interviews with the musicians, we start out by saying, during our interview, plug whatever you want to plug. Tell me if you want me to drive this interview in a way that gives you an opportunity to talk about something that you've got in the pipeline. So our style of journalism is vastly different to probably like review stuff that you might be doing, Glenn. And that's just, I guess, because that's the area I decided to focus on.
So that's event journalism, right? Because if you keep focusing it towards an event, yeah, right. Okay. And what about yourself, Glenn?
For reviews, when I was doing reviews, I'm not really doing reviews now, but when I was doing reviews, it was if it's a second album where you can't go back about all the things they've done, you're basically talking about the sounds that are on the album and the lyrics, what they have to say, that sort of thing. Where you think what has influenced something. Usually, I remember when I was doing it for the big record companies, they would send a blurb with the album, so you'd have all the latest. It was done by this person, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of information on the credits back then too. I mean, you don't get that anymore with the everything on Spotify. So there's no. I used to sit down for hours and read all the credits on the albums and who did this and who did that and who was mopping the floor that day and that sort of stuff. That sort of interesting. And the smell of a record when you got a record and you opened up and it was a gatefold album and there was just so much information. That was brilliant.
Photos. I miss the photos because we did photography as well.
Yeah.
And I miss the photography. I mean, Instagram's great for photography, but it's not the same as opening somebody's album, like you said, or CD and reading a bit about them and seeing their photos, what's important to them.
And the difference
with
what I'm writing now is it's more a celebration because it's a whole chronicle of all these people that have gone before and collecting all the history, and I think the Audio Culture website is one of the few that's doing that. You're getting in touch with these guys whose heyday was like the 1950s or the 1960s, and they're so enthusiastic that somebody has remembered who they are because, like, for the last 50 or 60 years, they've been driving a taxi or working in a freezing works or something, and they had this huge hit that everybody knew in like 1955 or in 1978 or something. Yeah, like that sort of stuff. Yeah, and so all those stories will be lost if somebody's not getting a hold of them and saying, "This is important. You guys were the I don't know, the models of your day or something rather, or
cultural influence."
Yeah, they were for that moment in time. They were the biggest band in the land, and sort of no one knows anything about them anymore. So that stuff's important. We collect the stories. We've got another guy that collects like the tracks and puts it on Spotify. So on the website you have the story of the band, all the photos we can find, links to other stuff on the net about them, and also the music. So it's a one-stop shop collecting the stories. Otherwise, they're gone. When those guys die, this stuff's gone. So so it's not reviewing anymore. But that's sort of writing a celebration. Yeah, documenting and those guys. And so it's a snapshot in time, and it's great to be able to talk to them and get that stuff down. So that's much different to reviewing.
Yeah, wow.
Can I ask you a question, Glenn?
Yeah.
Sorry, Doug.
No, go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
Do you find it really different when you're engaging with, say, a band that's like of the new millennial generation versus the group that you were just talking about then?
Oh yeah. The guys today they don't know how lucky they've got or how easy it is now as to what it used to be. And I think if I'd spoken to those guys that were the big band in 1958 or 1960 something or 1970, they might have been very much the same as the millennial people that you speak to today that are in bands that are sort of a bit arrogant and a bit off the cuff and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure if you've spoken to those guys in their heyday, they would have been the same. And the guys today, maybe in 20, 30 years, might be a bit more, that was 5 minutes we were at it. That was fantastic, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot of...
Do you change your approach depending on who you're talking to, or you're just the same Glenn every time?
Oh, I try not to change my approach. And the thing is... and with a lot of people I talk to in these New Zealand bands, because I had a bit of a profile in New Zealand as a musician in the sort of night.
You're a bit of a legend, man. You've got 4 records under your belt. So everyone check him out.
Yeah, so I had a bit of a profile in New Zealand, and I moved over to Australia to sort of take that a few steps further and see what I could do over here. But it's once I got over here, it was a poorly planned move, and it was badly executed timing, all that sort of stuff. And so I ended up.
Thanks, Veronica.
Getting a job, full day job and everything.
That's for Glenn.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Veronica.
Yeah. Sorry, and did you finish answering your question there, Mel?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So
I don't change. I'm just the same crazy chick that I do interviews with everyone. and some have no idea what to expect because I ask really off the wall questions like speed dating questions sometimes in interviews, and that That really, like Frank Sultana, you had in your show. I was just looking at an interview I did with him a little while ago, and I said to him, "Do you like your women tattooed or bare skinned?" He's like, "What?"
And I'm glad you didn't put the answer up. So, but I'm just kidding. But another question. So, do you think there's a shift now? Because before people, I mean, here's my double. Just because of what you were saying, Glenn. I don't know. I'll just zoom in for a second. Here's my record. This is exactly what you were saying. So it's actually double gatefold because right. So, you know, I'm a fan of the I'm a fan of the art. So actually, a friend of mine, Andrew Willis, he took those photos. He's actually won portraiture awards doing his PhD. Blah blah blah. Anyway, off the topic. But do you think there's a shift now because people used to through records understand personality of the artist, but now because of video, it's now everyone doesn't have a down moment. Like everyone has. It's now a shift to personality, not just musicality. Do you agree or disagree? Maybe Mella?
Well, definitely. This sort of touches on what I was saying before about you've got to have a personality when you start to do live streaming stuff or you'll fall flat. So, yeah, I think that the shift is definitely towards personality. And that comes across again in the social media because we do social media marketing as well.
Yep.
And working with musicians and so in their marketing side. And so there's so many platforms now where you can reach an audience, but you've got to infuse those platforms with your personality in order to reach those fans. And if you're not doing that, then that's why you're not reaching your fans. That's my opinion anyway. Or you're just not very good.
I think the personality thing is I agree with Mella on that, and it's when you think back to the old days when you used to buy an album, especially overseas bands in the 80s or whatever, and you'd buy an album, you didn't even know who the people on the cover were. You had the names on the back, and if there wasn't an individual photo of each person with their name, you would have to guess. Yeah, that guy. He looks like a drummer. He must be the drummer because he looks a bit slow. That guy. So you'd go through making these summations of who these people on the cover might be. And it wasn't until you saw a video, and sometimes a video would just be like a movie scene, or you wouldn't even see them playing their instruments. So it would be like, oh, that guy's the drummer. He can't be. No, he must be this guy. And so
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it was all instant. Yeah.
The other thing you've touched on there is, look, grew up in the 80s, and I'm going to show my age now, but I remember the Bon Jovis and the Skid Rows and the Motley Crues, the big hair, the colourful clothes, the presentation, the brand. Like they really sold a brand. And I think what we're seeing emerge more and more of now are the artists that I call them the denim artist. They rock up in a pair of high-waisted jeans and a T-shirt, and they look like they've just finished school or finished work, and they jump on and they perform. And this is on festival stages as well. Yeah. And I'm like, I kind of miss the art of the showmanship, the art of dressing up, the art of taking a little bit of pride in creating a brand, and this is who I am, and this is part of my image.
And
does that make sense?
For you?
Yeah. One of the recent bands, though, that have really created a brand, I've thought, is Violent Soho, because they're so dedicated to 4122 and the whole Mansfield thing and the real Brisbane thing, that their brand, every video you see of theirs is they're on the streets of Mansfield, and you know the places and all the areas and that sort of thing. I think they're very good at having created a brand for themselves.
Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. And I just want to be clear because sometimes I get misinterpreted when I say this sort of stuff, and I just want to clarify. If jeans is your thing, that's cool, but be consistent in it. Like a C6 Steve scenario. Look, that guy will rock up in a pair of thongs and overalls and sell it every time. That's his known brand. It's consistent.
Yeah.
So I think it's the consistency thing. Know who you are and really own it across everywhere, every platform, whether you're on, like my signature thing at the moment is a steampunk thing, you know? And so I want to always bring some sort of steampunk thing to my persona.
It's interesting you say that because, I've actually gone through a couple of things similar, and I wear them all the time, and I left them upstairs, my sonnies. So, as an insignia, but you know, it's the same deal as that, or maybe a necklace or something. I can't even
be subtle.
Yeah, but it just has to be the consistent thing. Yeah.
I think the hardest thing at the moment, and I don't know whether it was Doug or Mella that touched on it before, is with everything being so instant now, you've got to be careful when you're writing like something on the net that people will stay with it for the whole way, because the old days of the Rolling Stones sort of articles about bands are gone because everyone's attention span is so short. I put something on for the kids to listen. I've got 3 kids. You put something on, a song on for the kids to listen to, and after about 30 seconds,
I can say 30 seconds, isn't it?
Yeah, it's terrible. They can't. There's no attention span anymore. When I used to buy an album, you put the album on, so you put side 1 on, and you played it through, and you listened to everything, and you took it all in, then you put side 2 on, you listen to the whole thing, and then you put it on again. But now it's like, now it's one song, 30 seconds, skip. Next song, 30 seconds, skip. Yeah.
Well,
you know what
maybe
else
have
I
to,
miss?
you go,
Sorry,
Mel.
go, Doug.
Well, I was just going to say, maybe we need to start a revival, Glenn. Audio appreciation revival.
Yes.
AAR.
I was going to say something I really missed from the 80s is Countdown. And that was purely because you had this show that showcased great music along with music journalism. And you had the iconic Molly Meldrum that pulled it all together. I kind of miss that. I mean, we have all those shows like X Factor and, The Voice and all that sort of thing, but it's not the same. This wasn't a competition. Countdown wasn't a competition. It was just a showcase, and I loved it and discovered new music there all the time.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question about new music. So maybe, Glenn, through your journalism, did you actually discover new music with other people bringing it to you, or was that even a thing, or were you, just asking how you discovered?
When I worked in a newspaper for 4 years, and you do discover new music because someone might come up to you with it. They just have a genre that they know that you are interested in, and say, "Oh, here's a genre that you might."
I may have dropped them. It's a fake. Smashed them all out. Anyway.
So you find the new stuff that you find the new artists that way that you either take under your wing or you don't. But now Spotify when you listen to Spotify, they say, well, these are the songs on your playlist. So now we've made this playlist for you, which is like, there's often nothing in there of interest to me anyway. It's like, I don't know where they're getting their information from, but I don't know.
I saw an article saying...
Carry on.
I was just going to say, I saw an article saying Spotify's allowed you to monetize on your stuff, like on your music. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to go back and have a look at it, but I hope that's the case. Where there's like a donate to the artist kind of scenario, okay. But don't quote me. It's one of them. It's Spotify. I have to go back and go to my page and have a look. But I'm pretty certain it was Spotify that was doing that donate to the artist scenario, which is really cool if they have.
I was just in the States in January playing with some amazing musicians. Maybe they were playing with me. No, just kidding. But, I had one of my songs go viral. Sorry, I had a video that went viral, and that sort of fed into Spotify. I had nearly 20,000 clicks on Spotify.
Wow.
But but it sounds cool, and it really is. I'm very appreciative of it. But has it converted to cash? Not really.
No, the cash conversion, unless they've changed it with this donate thing, the cash thing, I think you've got to have some ridiculous in the millions before you get $5 or something. It's
I think it's like half a cent per song, so 200 views to get $1.
It's not very good.
My point is, though, what really made sense to me just in January is that the visual stimulated the audio.
Yes.
So because of my video, with Nuno Betancourt and Tom Morello and all these other big names in guitar playing.
Oh, was that the one where they were watching you with the all that stuff? They were in the audience going at each other. Well, see that one.
That was. And but because I had that, people were like, "Oh, who's this guy?"
Yeah.
And then they went and sort out. So I guess
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, right. Your sample machine works there. Sounds like a real dog. But anyway, we've got a couple of questions here, a couple of points we can address. So, sad from Veronica. Sad, many kids miss the best of life due to social media fed limited attention span. So, yes, I agree with that. Do you agree with that, everyone?
Yeah. Well, even Instagram, most of the feeds know the way they're set up for live streams is like a minute. So that's your attention span.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Okay. Yep.
I do it myself when you're flicking through content. It's you've got to see something really interesting before you actually stop.
Yeah.
Okay. Next point. Yeah, I totally agree about bringing back Countdown. Think we heavily rely on radio to break the airwaves, but we do have Spotify and other platforms to help us out. But it's not until hits on the radio, I guess, that the public notices you other than live gigs that you play. So do you agree with that?
I don't know. I don't think radio's been relevant for a long time now. Really,
Is it radio's dying out?
I don't think it'll ever die out because I don't know if perhaps it will at some stage. But I think most of the new stuff is through the social media avenues now,
and radio streaming as well. Like
probably
I don't listen to mainstream
actually.
Radio. I stream, through TuneIn.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't thinking of streaming radio. That's probably what the questioner was talking about. I was thinking about getting in the car and listening to bloody, putting on whatever's on the car radio. Most of it's just garbage.
I think that the audience these days is really savvy and they know how to find what they want.
Yeah.
And they'll go to whatever is their preference. So that's why I was saying before, for me, the key for marketing is get on every platform. Who cares if Spotify is only going to pay you 0.5 cent? If somebody's listening to your song, then you've got to reach. And if you can get onto TuneIn through those radio streams, then get on there as well. And, let's be frank here, if you're in it as an original artist to make money, then you're delusional because it's such a small portion of people that make huge successes. But if you're in it because of the creativity and because you want to actually reach people who will enjoy your music, then the give back from that way outweighs the monetary gain. And I'll probably get shot for saying this, but that's my views. And then if you are successful, that's a secondary benefit. I hope that makes sense. Because you love it.
Yeah. So, what were you going to say to that, Glenn? Did you have a point to add to that?
Oh no, I agree wholeheartedly. I think if original artists, it's the hardest road to hoe, really. It's just, it can be very disheartening.
Because you love it.
Yeah, you got to do it because you love it.
And because you want people to connect for me, because I do write original music and I perform it. And look, I don't have a big reach. I don't have a massive following or anything like that. But those people that do enjoy what I do really enjoy it. And that means more to me.
Scotty's got a point there. You can't feed yourself on the love of it.
No.
So
no. But that's why most original artists also have to do covers and do gigs and, do what we have to do. So I guess I was talking about the original artists. I just think it's a really hard path to go down to make money off, regardless of this virus.
Yeah, that's a good point. So with publishing, because I know you guys would be exposed to getting articles ready to publish, do you prefer the musician to have something? This is providing you're not doing an interview. So do you prefer the muso to have something all my hand gestures are still too short. So I have to put it in front of my face. Do you prefer the musicians to be pre-prepared, have all their stuff written out, or do you rather write it cold?
Wing it. I wing everything.
Right, wing it.
I'm the opposite. I like having, if it's somebody that I don't know, I'm familiar with, although I can find most of that stuff on the internet now, information about them. But it's always nice to have sort of an idea before you go in of what you're facing. But that was when I used to be reporting and doing that sort of stuff, reviewing, I guess. Now, the stuff I'm doing now, I know a lot about the history side of what they've done and that sort of thing. That's why I've gone to them in the first place. So, yeah.
So
I research. I just don't write like preformed questions. I just research their music.
I don't do that either. But I like to have a bit of information about the first.
Oh, so do I. I have to know what they're all about. Otherwise, I don't understand their music. I want to be able to question about their music.
So, for example, what would be useful if understanding that they're a political band or a anti-establishment band? I guess it's the same deal. But what's their take on it, or if they're gearing their music towards something. So maybe that might form the next question. What's your opinions on music that has greater meaning? You know, so maybe it's an anti-drought song, or it's a, I don't know, maybe anti-COVID song at the moment. I'm sure lots of people writing those at the moment.
I don't actually have an opinion. I think as long as you're writing something that is important to you, that you enjoy, you know, your storytelling about, then write about it. Because, I mean, not everybody's political. You know, some people like to write from third person. Some people like to write from first person. So, yeah, I don't think the subject matters as long as you're selling it with passion. That's my theory, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's a cause, some sort of cause song, then they might put something in their press release or something to say that if it's a case of all the money for this song is going towards a such and such, or they're raising awareness of a blah blah blah, then you'd include that sort of stuff. But a lot of those for a cause sort of songs, they're either hit or miss. Some of them miss by a mile, and it's hard to sort of find some positives in some of the stuff where you just thought, well, you've said you're doing this, but it sounds like you've done
nothing. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Well,
maybe that's the motivation behind it.
Yeah.
So, what about complete failed interviews? Have any of you had those? Horror stories doing your job.
I was interviewing Spiderbait, and it was really late in the evening after we'd all had a very lot of drink. Actually, what happened is they weren't doing interviews. And so we got really, really drunk, all of us. And then they said, we'll do an interview with you. It'll be fun. And so we did this interview together. And at this stage, the guitarist was actually eating the Christmas lights that were hung up backstage. And I had to stop him from trying to eat the Christmas lights. I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but I do have footage of it where I'm like, can't do that, because he's like, they're really pretty. And we were all really drunk and we're just being stupid. But yeah, it's not in the interview. I did cut that out, but I probably should put some funny behind the scenes stuff up, because that was interesting.
Wow. So that's pretty cool. Spiderbait eating Christmas tree lights. It's cool. It's good. And what about you, Glenn?
Well, the ones that we do for audio culture, because it's the artist's story and you want to make sure that everything's right. It's different when I was a newspaper reporter. One of the rules is you never ever, once you've written a story, you never ever give the story back to the person to okay. So before it goes to print, it just goes to print. So you get the story and it goes to print. So, which is fair enough. But when I did this one for audio culture, it was a country star of the 60s, and she had one album out, and we had a moderate bit of success. And I had a really great interview with her, full of great anecdotes and great stories about her career and funny little things that happened. And I thought, this is going to be a great story. I wrote the story up and I sent it back to her and said, I'll just check it over and then have a look what you think and let me know if there's anything you want taken out or that I've missed the mark on. And she totally rewrote the whole thing and sent it back as this really bland sort of. And she said, I think I was off my meds that day or something. But it was great. The story was great, so I just sort of rewrote it again because
full of personality.
Yeah. But I couldn't include the interesting stuff, which was her loss.
Well, one error. This is maybe not journalism, but maybe omissions of a couple of words. I was touring with the Australian Rage Against the Machine show, and we were doing an East Coast tour.
Wow.
And I was.
Hang on. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I was playing Tom Morello, as you can see, very, very clearly, and with my noonttan. And then, anyway, I think it was on the north, somewhere near, where was it? Noosa or somewhere around there. We're doing this great big room. Anyway, they advertised, all the other venues was Rage Against the Machine Australian Tribute Show, right? Cool. Anyway, this last venue we did on the tour was like, oh, this is so cool. There's like so many people here. This is going to be fantastic. When we got there, I was like, wonder why there's so many people here, not like at the other gigs. They forgot to put Australian Tribute Show. So everyone that was coming there thought Rage Against the Machine were actually playing. So that was kind of funny. Yeah, but anyway, the importance of words, that's my whole point.
Yeah.
So, and what about... with more about words, what do you do? How do you open it? How did, like, the first line of, sorry, I'm sort of jumping across here. The first line that you write to be really, really catchy, like, do you have any go-to, like, ways of opening in a sentence to make sure that it's really, really punchy? Or not?
I just try. It depends what the story entails. Like you can find there's usually some highlight in there or something that they've said in their interview that just sort of pokes out as being the main thing that you want to grab hold of. Like the one guy that I did an interview. One of the stories I did on Audio Culture was a guy called Murray Grindley, who you might Australians. He was a Kiwi, but Australians might remember in the early 80s, he was known as Montevideo for one song. Do you remember Montevideo? Shoop, shoop, diddy, whoop, come on, wang, dang.
Awesome song.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh.
I wouldn't have it until you just did that.
Yeah, but he was a 60s. He was a guy in the 60s and 70s, and he was a jingles writer in New Zealand in the 70s. But he had been in a band called Cruise Lane, which he basically stopped performing live because they had a gang come into the club and asked them for one more song, which they wouldn't do. And as they were leaving, this guy threw a shot glass at his face and gave him like 4 or 5 stitches underneath his eye. So he vowed then and there he would never ever play in bars again. So that was like I grabbed onto that. That's a great story that not a lot of people know about. And so that was the intro to the story, saying a bar fight at the blah 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 was the reason that he gave music away, but he still managed to get this #1 hit away as a jingles writer. So yeah, just stuff jumps out all the time. Yeah.
And do you have a funny story about an opening there as well, Mella? Opening sentence like PowerPoint. Sounds like a Microsoft.
Something about Christmas lights being eaten, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. All my stuff.
Crunchy Santa. Yeah.
It's so varied. I don't know. I don't have that sort of. There was one funny story where we interviewed someone, and one of the questions was, "Do you have a phobia?" And the answer was, "Yeah, people licking towels." And I'm like, how the hell do you even work out that you have a phobia about somebody licking a towel? Like, oh, sorry, that's just bizarre. I probably should have used that as an opener.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. I've just got a point here from Veronica. It's a long one. I'll just read it out. The saying, I don't know, starving artist comes from people being original. They may not have the dollars, but we are happier with our work. But we got to eat and feed our family. It's a fine-tuned, balancing act. If you can put a pinch of your individuality amongst the commercialism, it can feel really good. Yes, I agree with that. What do you guys think about that?
I agree. Yep.
Yeah. 100%.
But I guess, and the reason why we're having this chat is for those who are watching, if you've got any questions, please post them. Just the importance of the journalist in your marketing team for writing a press release or something. So that's my next question. So that's the first point. And writing a press release, to name drop or not to name drop? Mella?
Most of the press release stuff I've done is around events. So I would name drop like crazy. So, this is who's going to be headlining. This is who's going to be there. This is the biggest party of the century. Yeah, no, I go to town on that stuff.
Yep. And Glenn?
Well, if you're talking about like artists giving you a press release and they say that they were selected by some big name artist as their opening act for a tour of the blah blah blah, then that sort of thing, you can name drop for that sort of stuff, or you were once in such and such as road band or those sorts of things, but not that maybe you were at a bar once with somebody and they were sitting in the other corner of the bar and you were in the same bar. That sort of stuff. Don't name drop that sort of stuff.
Right. And don't overdo it too.
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
One thing that really irks me in social media at the moment is sometimes, you put a post up, you see someone put a post up and another musician will hijack their post just so they can name drop. Oh, I've been played at that venue back in 19 bloody whatever. Yeah. With and name drop Paul Kelly, and it's like, you just hijacked that person's music post where it was their glory moment.
Yeah, that's right.
And you made it about you. So that I don't like that sort of stuff, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I also think that if you name drop too much, you can come across as not gracious or humble. So you've got to kind of balance it, I think.
Yeah, that's probably you. Oh, here we go. Here's a good question. Do you need permission to name drop?
No.
Just
go for it.
Unless you're lying.
Controversy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, the fact is everyone is standing on the shoulders of the people that have come before us, right? So
that's right.
That's what art is, I guess. You know, it doesn't matter how far. I had this conversation with some guys the other day, some producers in the States, and we're talking about Led Zeppelin in, you know, Stairway to Heaven. But, you know, did he come up with it? Blah, blah, blah. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. They tried to sue. I guess something happened there. But if you look at Duke Ellington, you know, the generation of music before Led Zeppelin's rock and that, he did exactly the same thing with the, you know, contrary motion with the bass line going down and the melody going up. And then if you go back even further, that's what Bach did, you know. So if you go back even further, I'm sure Gregorian chants, monks used to do it in church as well before they made some of the scales illegal, you know. But, you know, details. But, oh, here, we got another point here. Here's an idea. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Thanks, Tom. So,
what sort of journalists do you think we are?
So, besides, you know, writing for the musicians, is this a practiced art? Do you actually write for other things as well? So, I'm just talking about you individually now and the love of writing. Is it just you only like writing about musos, or do you cross genre and write about other things as well?
For me, I do, because social media marketing, digital media marketing. So it has been focused quite a bit around music. So I'm the sort of writer that will help a musician with their bio. But I will write resumes for people. I'm just a creative writer. I think you've got people who really enjoy storytelling through the art of, you know, writing or songing. Jeez, that's great English. Songing, mate. Get a bit of songing happening. It was a bit like the word earlier. What was the word earlier? Which described one audience member?
Audience.
Audience, yeah. I'm not songing to my one audience.
So what about...
yeah.
Oh, and Glenn, is this a love that you do through other genres? Writing?
Well, I started off, as I said, as I was a newspaper cadet when I was 17, and so I was at a newspaper for 4 years and had to write about, because it was my job, I wrote about everything from 50th wedding anniversaries to sports events to the court reporting to the local council, that sort of stuff. And then so it's definitely difficult to write about something that you have no interest in, like local council, the dog parks being closed down or having a couple of meters added, that stuff. I'm not just interested in that. So I've got lucky enough to have a day job that's not affected by the pandemic as well. So, and I work from home. So the writing is like an outlet that and it's something that I enjoy because, as I say, it's collecting. So it's the history of these bands that most of them influenced me. I've become like the writer specific to the genre that I used to perform in. So it's stuff that interests me in the first place, and I get paid because the website is it's government funded by New Zealand government. So because they realised the importance of collecting all of the stuff, and because we haven't been very good at it in the past, so I get when I do a story, I get paid. So it might be one story a month, one story every 6 weeks, something like that. So,
and there's a question there for you, Glenn. Have you ever used writing to promote a visual artist?
No, I haven't.
We did video interview again because I'm more of a visual storyteller more so, I guess, than the writing at the moment. But we promoted Art Walk up here just recently. So I have a friend of mine who's a drag queen, and we went out on the streets as Systematic, which is my persona when I'm doing interviews, and Ruthless Blackheart, my drag queen, and you know, sidekick, and we promoted Art Walk here. So that was all visual art, a little bit of music, but mainly visual art in town. That was a lot of fun.
Oh wow.
I'll write about anything really. If you know, bit of a writing slut, I suppose. I'll just go wherever somebody wants me to write. I just enjoy writing.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, a friend of mine, he did so Veronica, I guess this is about, have you ever used, not so much writing, but I definitely endorse the arts. And a friend of mine, he did he had his first gallery. So he presented all his artwork with another guy for his PhD at Griffith University, and it was phenomenal. It was like an immersion. It wasn't like you just look at art. It was like video art, and lots of other strange stuff. I probably not the platform that divulged, but it was awesome. So I totally endorse that. Probably didn't really explain that right, but yeah, get into it. But getting back to writing, how would you write a bio? And I guess if I know, Mella, you're actually doing this now, but how would you keep it short and sharp to the point? And do you recommend like one paragraph, 4 sentences? Yeah, just what do you suggest?
That is something that I do use structure for. So, your opening, your middle, your close kind of scenario. But I have to know a lot about the artist. So when we're talking before about research, I have to research the artist quite a lot before I'll do a bio for them. I often do it in conjunction with building their websites and stuff like that. So I do get to know them quite well before I'm putting their bio together. But again, that you've got to lead with that really punchy, quick, short paragraph, get as much information in there as possible, but stand out, be different. So really descriptive words rather than, my name is this and I'm from here. It's more like, I think my bio leads at something with all the roar of a V8 engine, that an old Holden V8 engine, barrel dogs, this and that. And so those really, it's like trying to describe things to someone who's blind. That's how I see it. Add as much color in there as possible, just really descriptive words. It's the best I've got.
Okay, and Glenn?
I used to write bios for some of my friends who were musicians that were not such good writers about themselves. It's always more difficult to write about yourself than anything else. I just used to, the same as what Mella said, is just keep it punchy and to the point, and try to make it engaging and interesting. But I try to stay away from writing that stuff for my friends now, because it's just, as Mella said, you've got to know a lot about them, or have the interest in what they're doing, I think, to really write a good one for them.
They're not interested in your friends?
Oh, Glenn, I won't be asking you, mate.
There's an art to writing a bio. And I think what you just said about how difficult it is to write about yourself, that's why I do that whole co-writing thing where I write with the musician. So I get some of the information from them, and then I start to add the colourful words around it. But I found it difficult writing about myself. It took me a lot longer to write my own bio.
Yeah.
So
it's probably still not great.
For teaching, I went on this writing course, and I learned that there's 8 types of paragraphs, and I did not know that there was 8 types of paragraphs. Anyway, my favourite type is the lawyer paragraph. They actually have all these different names. I should have actually been prepared, and I would have brought it over. However, this is amazing, because if I didn't go on this course, I probably wouldn't have been able to get my exegesis done. I had to write, I wrote 15,000 words in my essay, and I think, Glenn, you already know I'm looking at doing a PhD soon, so I have to get used to writing.
Yes.
Which is a completely different ballgame. However, my point is that with creative arts, I guess someone, reading it will go, oh, thank you, Veronica. Cool. Thank you. Invaluable. Yeah, thank you very much. That's for Glenn and Mella there.
Thank you.
My point is that, do you prefer just to free form? You don't really conform to a style of paragraph. You just get on with it. It doesn't really matter. Is there any format to your process, or does it just happen? Like writing a song. Yeah, Mella. It's just like writing a song, really. Like, do you have a process?
Well, again, it depends on the mediums, because when you're writing so if I start writing out a bio, I start with writing it for the website, because that's going to be the biggest one for me. This is where you're going to get all your bells and whistles, your details about the history of this person, who they've worked with, the name dropping stuff, all that. But then when we go to, say, Facebook or Instagram, those bios are way shorter. So I think Instagram is, set to a very limited amount of characters that you can put in your bio, that you're going to have to grab the attention of the audience fairly quickly. Facebook, I think you've got 2 opportunities. So I actually, or 3 if you count my story. So I write for all of those, but pull it all from the one major bio. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I pull mini bios from one major bio.
That's a good point. Yeah. And what do you think, Glenn? Structure or no structure?
Yeah, the lawyer.
I think we lost Mella. We think we lost Mella. Oh,
the lawyer paragraph, or the different paragraphs. I don't know anything about those. Writing was something that just came naturally to me. Maths, I'm a shocker at maths, but the writing I was just sort of natural at sort of being able to keep people interested in something. So yeah, most of it's I don't know, it just seems to be natural. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, I guess it's like playing music. You just these days I don't really think much about it. Just do it. So, yeah. Well, we're probably we're going on 50 minutes now. So maybe is there any? What's that? Sorry.
They'll be sick of us.
Oh no, not at all. But no, I think this is actually quite very, very. And I'd like to maybe get you both back again another time down the track. And
now that I know how to work this contraption.
I just want to say too, it's been really good to network with you, Glenn, and I'd like to stay in touch as well, because when Doug and I were talking earlier, and we were talking about, do I know other journalists in this area, and I don't know a lot here, particularly not in music. So
well, Glenn was the real deal. So, and I've just got a question here for you guys. So do people often send you their band pages to get public attention, or are you guys more like you would show up to a gig and you would write about their performance as a review? So do you go to the venue, or do they just send you their stuff?
Well, you go first. You're in the middle.
Yeah, okay. As I said before, I'm not really doing the reviews and that sort of thing anymore. So I don't get sent any band things by anybody. Usually,
I'm going to send
the
you
audio
some.
Culture. Yeah, because the audio culture thing's historical. It's basically looking at people that are missing from the history, and then sort of putting the approach to there's a creative director who's a writer as well, a guy called Chris Burke, who wrote the Crowded House biography, Something So Strong.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
So he's the content director of audio culture.
Wow.
So every time we write a story, he'll come to me and say, "Have you heard of this band? We need something on them." So I'll go and search them out, or I'll go to him and say, "What about these guys? I found this old record here. Who are these guys? And let's do something about them." So that's how it goes about. For gigs and that sort of stuff, I don't. As I say, the whole review thing and the going to gigs and the nights, clubs and those sorts of things, I'm not doing any of that stuff myself. But yeah.
Yeah. And what about you, Mella? Do you go to gigs or just get stuff sent to you?
I go to gigs, but it's just I only just recently started freelance writing for our local newspaper here, to be able to do the local gig scene stuff. So I've only just recently done that. But yes, absolutely plugging stuff that I go along to. But before that, we were backstage at festivals. So it was a matter of we get to go to a festival, and whatever bands decided they were happy to do, media interviews with us, then we would do that. And so, it was on the festival scene.
Cool.
So the difference from me is it's sort of I'm probably a historian really. So I'm not writing about the what's happening today. Mine's basically, as I say, collecting the stories and that sort of thing. So it's a whole different kettle of fish to what Mella is doing.
But I guess the point though is what Mella is can't get the point the right way. What Mella is doing in years to come, people like yourself will be looking for that, right? So that it feeds.
We'll be researching her. That's right. Saying,
Right.
Could this story be true?
What's this crap?
The Christmas lights. What's the Christmas lights thing? We've got to lead with that.
Yeah. Do you know the difference too? I find between so written media and the video is I've got this video log now where I look back, because we've been doing it for like 10 years or more. And I look back and I go, oh my God, that was so bad. I was so bad. And I don't care. I leave it up there because it's that testimony of how far I've come as a journalist, or how much better I've got. So So I leave them up there, but I do cringe at some of my early stuff. I cringe at some of my later stuff too.
Yeah, right.
The funny thing with the history stuff is that you can get 2 guys or 3 guys in the same band and point them towards the same sort of thing that happened in their band life at the same, that they're all there for, and they've all got completely different stories about what happened and who was there and why they did what they did. And you've got to sort of go, you got to check what they've said against a newspaper article of the time that might have the relevant information, or the people spoke about it at the time when it was fresh. Because 20 years down the track, 30 years down the track,
it's exaggerated.
Completely different stories about it. Yeah.
Do you want a funny media story? A story?
Okay.
Just a random story. Do you guys know Lior, musician?
No.
Okay. Well, there's a musician called Lior. He's a lovely guy. Check him out. He did tell me a story about a media story that he had where he'd been arranged to go into this shipping container and have this interview with, it was one of the big journalists. I can't recall off the top of my head. And it wasn't a journalist, it was a stalker. So he was locked in a shipping container with a stalker who had misrepresented herself so well as the media.
Oh, that's scary.
Wow. Wow, there you go.
So there you go. Just check, make sure your media is really your media.
Yes.
Yeah. Or maybe one last question then. Oh, Greg Berryman's watching it, and Jared. So, hey, Greg and Jared.
Hello, Greg and Jared.
Welcome to Music Talk.
Yes, Journo Talk. So maybe another question is, what advice do you have to, young, maybe because if Jared's listening, he's in a great band too. So, what's their something plan?
Is it evacuation?
Evacuation plan? I think so. Yeah. Yeah. So Jared, maybe type something on there and I'll put it up there, Jared, if you're listening. So maybe one last question to each of you about what's a bit of advice for young up-and-comers and like learning how to respect the journalist. What should they know or what should they do?
They don't have to respect us.
I was just going to say the same thing. I don't think they should ever respect the journalist.
No. Do you know what? Being honest about it, the more humble the musician is, and this is truth, this is coming from my heart, the more humble the musician is, I'll go the extra yards for, even when it comes down to editing. And I know that sounds, I guess bad in a sense, but I will put extra effort and time into doing something if somebody has been really polite to me, like, respectful, just generally respectful. Yeah. I'm not asking them to kiss ass or anything like that, but,
Or eat Christmas tree lights.
But there's a difference. If somebody's really arrogant, I don't try as hard.
Okay,
yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Yeah, if you've got someone who's a real pain to interview or to even communicate with, that doesn't give you the time of day, or you're just not going to put the effort into the story. It might just be 3 paragraphs to say they were here, they did a gig, and now they're going to such and such.
So I guess just point blank, people's skills never die, right?
Oh no.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter.
Basic humanity skills.
Well, okay. Well, we might leave it there and wrap it up. So do you want to maybe just quickly tell everyone your socials, Mella, first? Or your social, how do we can find you?
On YouTube, it's LiveToTV. Facebook, you'll find us that way as well. I've got a streaming channel as well. If people want to do music interviews with me, I'm 100% up to do live interviews. That would be lots of fun. That's what we've been doing, but
so, yeah, that's cool. So I liked it. Yeah, awesome.
I might like to interview you, Doug. How about we swap this around?
Yeah,
and I'd love to have you on a show.
I got a record.
And interview as an artist. It's a completely different thing. But
sure. Yeah. Done.
So if anyone wants to do that, I'm keen to do it. I've got to start, thinking about.
And your Facebook page? Do you have a Facebook page?
It's all Live2TV or Live2 streaming. I've got a website, live2.com.au. I started recently a website to support artists who want to move into streaming or tutoring. It's like $5 a month if you want to help donate towards my costs. Otherwise, you can join it for free. There's also like a back end for the musicians to get tools and resources and network with each other. But that's what I've got on offer at the moment.
Cool. And Glenn, do you have any socials? Do people reach out to you? Maybe buy your record?
Yeah. The Audio Culture website, probably www.audioculture.co.nz, which is, if you've got interest in New Zealand music, everything from Drag and My Sex back to Johnny Devlin and up to modern people, Marlon, what's his name? Marlon Williams, Delaney Davidson, those sorts of people. So it's anything, it's all there, audioculture.co.nz.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you both. I just want to say thank you and acknowledge both of you for what you're doing. So thank you, Mella, for coming on and
Thank you.
telling us what you're doing.
Thanks for doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. And also, Glenn, actually, being a historian, a music historian, because I agree with you, a lot of knowledge just vanishes, and I've had some mentors that have gone and they had a wealth of knowledge. And only me as a student got to see that, but no one else knows, and it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah.
All right, well, please stay on the line for a second. I'll just sort this out, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And there we go. So please like and subscribe this way if you're on YouTube. And please go and like Doug D. Jong Music. There you go. And I can't see what you're saying there, Veronica. But anyway, thank you very much. This has been really, really cool. Stick around, and I'll see you next time. Please like and subscribe.